Why has the axing of Minister Nhlanhla Nene caused such a stir? Was enough consultation done before this decision was taken? And does it make economic sense to remove Minister Nene from office during a slowing economy? Why has Pravin Gordhan replaced David Van Rooyen after just 4 days in office? What time is it? It is question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The unexpected axing of Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene and replacing him with David Van Rooyen has become a contentious issue. Economists say the country's capital markets posted significant losses and saw unprecedented activity in reaction to last week's announcement. Meanwhile, former Finance and outgoing Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Pravin Gordhan has been appointed to replace Minister Van Rooyen, who was barely 4 days in office. The JSE and the Rand have posted reasonable recovery from the unprecedented lows on Friday following the news of Gordhan's appointment. But how much do political decisions affect the economy? A reminder that this is a live program, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial is 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle, Question Time 24. My guest today, Colin Limon, is an SABC economic journalist and will later be joined by Nompumelelo Khunji, an opinion editor at the Sowetan, and from our Durban studios, Israel Mkhize, who's a political economist. But before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at what the new finance minister had to say.
As a government, we will not cut pro-poor programs, growth-inducing programs, and investment in the economy. Instead, we will seek to increase investment by the 2017 budget. We are going to redouble our efforts to ensure efficiency of expenditure across the public service. New measures are being put in place to contribute to reducing corruption and enhancing transparency, and these will be complemented by stern enforcement by the relevant agencies.
That's the new Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan. Colin, thank you very much. You get to sit on the other side today.
All right, yeah.
You know this business. How has the Rand reacted to Pravin's announcement?
Well, there has been a slight recovery of the Rand against other international currencies. Well, with specific reference to the dollar, we can look at what we term the RR notion. Some brokers and market analysts call it a remarkable recovery since the nerves of the market have been calmed. So looking at that astronomical shoot up that we experienced over Friday and over the weekend, where the dollar was the Rand was very volatile against the dollar. We had a significant recovery. I mean, from the rooftops of around 15 Rand 89 cents to now to be trading at 15 Rand 14 cents. That shows that the nerves have been calmed. Although if you look at the trajectory of the Rand in the past 6 months, this is not the first time that the Rand has actually shot up beyond the borders of 15 Rand. So to some it has come as a shocker because they do not monitor the Rand's performance and its value towards the dollar on a daily basis, like those who look at high frequency data. But those who look at the Rand once in a while, because of their interest in as far as travel is concerned, the Rand dollar exchange rate only matters to them when they are involved in the market activity of that practical exchange. But the very stubborn market that you look at is the European market. When you look at the way the euro has been performing, I mean, from the levels of 13 Rand, now beyond 15 Rand, it has actually the Rand has really taken a beating from the effects in the international markets. Well, with the pound, the RR notion also now applies. There has been a remarkable recovery. I mean, last week, I remember on Friday when I looked at the frequency data, the pound to the Rand to the pound was over 24 Rand, and that actually sent the market to be very jittery.
But you see, I always say that I have a problem with you people in the business world? Because you talk a language ordinary people don't understand. The rand trajectory, this and that. How does it affect Florence in Mpumalanga?
Well, Florence in Mpumalanga has to know that the value of the rand would affect her indirectly, because when you look at the goods that are imported in the country, they are imported based on the rand versus a foreign currency exchange, and especially if they are imported goods. Now, for somebody in Mpumalanga as well who is a business person and manufactures goods and then exports them, the rand currency exchange would also affect their products on either the downside or the upside. So there is risk involved in terms of the currency value. If Florence in Mpumalanga wants to travel, say for example now during the holiday season, you want to go to maybe an MSC, you get on a cruise boat. When you get onto the boat, you have to exchange the rand to the dollar, and it's going to affect the value of your money when you exchange. Imagine when you left for Britain last week Friday with the exchange rate of 24 rand to £1, how would that affect you? So it does make sense that everybody has to monitor the value of the rand because it affects you as an individual.
Kabazela.
Yes, sir.
We welcome you from Durban there. Can all this really be put at President Jacob Zuma's door?
Well, I wouldn't say so in a way, because when you listen to Mr. Nhlanhla Nene's medium budget speech, he did highlight the overall context of the financial market and the economy, as it were. And you also look at first, second, third quarter of our economy, that it was showing a down slow, operating less than the earlier projected percentage. Even the South African Reserve Bank, they down their projection in a way. And you also look on Friday, the rating agencies, S&P, Fitch, looked at certain driving force factors within the investment space or context. So I would say maybe the combination of certain factors may have accelerated the volatility of the currency, the rand, it jumping into this very alarming kind of percentage. But I wouldn't lay everything on the door. But obviously the pronouncement by the new minister, Pravin Gordhan, he did admit this and the other thing, because we know that the markets, they work with, they need security. Once the panic buttons are pressed, because we are talking about the most volatile area of wealth management, which is paper wealth, the equities. I mean, you can go as far as 1623, where there was a first recorded stock market bust, and about 16 busts in between before the 1921 famous American stock market shock, which also precipitated events around the world wars. That there are common denominators, that there is obviously that relationship between the market and also the factors within the body politic. Look at the fall of the ruble in Russia earlier this year. I mean, they compared it, they looked at its 1998 fall, where that they said that the war that was going on between Russia and Ukraine, and also the oil, the rising cost of selling oil, they affected the condition of the currency. So it's a number of, if you will, it's a number of factors that would have one thing that triggers them, and then they go down spiral.
But now, is our economy driven from the outside, Israel? I mean, as you would say, this so-called markets, I mean, where's our sovereignty here in terms of our economic direction? Are we run from abroad?
It's a very good question. Well, if you look at from the 15th century with European expansion and what we usually term as the neoliberal, I don't know what others mean, but I personally mean that the maximization of profit, looking at profit margins, you have a situation where in South Africa alone, you probably have over 1,000 European companies, and you have a sizable amount of Indian companies or Asian companies, also a sizable amount of perhaps South American companies, North America as well. So you find that the shareholding of our private economy obviously has shareholders from outside of the borders of South Africa. So they would obviously keep their eye to see to look at the performance of the overall economy, and obviously predictability is one of the things that obviously investors look at, and the question of a sustainable policy framework, macroeconomic policy. You may change the players. Obviously, remember when Mr. Manuel stepped down for Mr. Gordhan, there was a lot of coughing on the currency world because there was uncertainty on who is this person and so on and so forth. But he came in, he showed fiscal prudence, and the market stabilized. The same thing when Minister Nene came on board. But this time, I think it's the speed at which the rand went up to that very high figure compared to the strength of the American dollar that somehow opened our eyes that there is a lot of outside stakeholder management in terms of the markets world within the South African economy.
Alrighty. Colin, let's look at what the new Minister of Finance is supposed to do first to ensure that the situation gets better, but only after the break. A reminder that you can call us and air your views. The number is 089-110-4210. What do you make of the rand volatility, as they called it? And what should have happened? Should we congratulate President Zuma for acting and listening to the people? Or what should happen? We'll be taking your call. 089-110-4210. This is question time. Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Let's have a look at what various political parties had to say before we go back into our program.
We welcome back Pravin Gordhan. He's got an experienced hand in finance. Now what needs to happen is that South Africans must unite for change. President Jacob Zuma is making irrational and illogical decisions, and the Constitution says he's unfit to hold office.
We nevertheless are very upset and unhappy by some reckless decisions that the president has been made. As a result, the ACDP supports the call for the president to be recalled.
Those are reactions from political parties. My guest, Colin Lemawani, is our in-house economic journalist, and Israel Kize, joining us from our Devon studios. John, you are in KZN. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. John?
I'm Paul. Yes. How are you?
I'm well. Go ahead. Switch off your
Hello,
TV
Paul.
set.
Yes, I'm Paul.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, Paul, I just want to find out here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to find out here whether is our president having economic advisors, or when he takes such irrational decisions, he consult with his cabinet, or it's just unilateralism?
Okay. He's got advisors.
Hello?
I'm saying he's got advisors, but as you may have heard, it's his prerogative to appoint and fire, so to say. So the advisors don't necessarily have to make that pronouncement. Okay, Joe, next time, please just switch off your television set, or rather switch the volume off so that we can hear each other quite well. The numbers to dial will be on your screen as we speak, and let's communicate. Give us your views. What do you think of this past 5 days? There's a Minister of Finance who served only for 4 days, and Pravin Gordhan is back. 0891104210. What should Pravin do first, Colin?
Well, he has already done it. The most important thing, because when he came into office, he had a very serious, daunting task of quelling the jitteriness of the markets, so to say. Because if you have the markets reacting negatively to such a pronouncement of an appointment of a minister that they don't know anything about, they don't understand any of his background, people need trust, they need confidence in the minister who has been championing the cause of the fiscal policy of government. Now, for it to remain prudent like that, they need somebody who will take a baton from the incumbent so that they can rely on him. So the reappointment of Pravin Gordhan was firstly to quell the nerves, or to calm the nerves of the market, which he did. Hence, we see the evidence in the recovery of the South African bonds, financial institutions, and the currency against the dollar.
Nati, you are also in KZN. Welcome. Nati? Nati? Whoa, Nati has left us, but please do call. 0891104210. Would love to hear what you think of what happened in the past 5 days, really, as a lot of people have had an opinion. Some saying, no, the president was wrong, he was supposed to bring back Nene and all that and all that. Israel, what do you think the president should have done? Do you think it would have been better to bring back Minister Nene than to reappoint Pravin?
Well, obviously, we have a speculative conversation and we have the official conversation. The official conversation is what the president himself has said, that he's poising Mr. Nene for an upcoming post at the BRICS Bank, which I respect. And I think we should give that to time to see that coming through. Obviously, in the reorientation of the new geopolitical and geo-economic setup, which we as South Africa are involved in, which is BRICS, it's very critical that we obviously send our best talent and so on and so forth. So I want to respect that view and also look at the reappointment of Mr. Gordhan, perhaps as quite a sober. I mean, look at the reaction of the rand. It's gained a bit of confidence. In fact, this morning, even before the JSE was opened, it had already gained some confidence. And we were watching as the day was proceeding, how is the rand picking up even when the JSE had opened. My biggest interest in Paul is this notion of the markets. There's a very interesting discourse going on, people questioning who are the markets. Do they have a face? Is this face local? Linking that with the whole discourse around the junk status, because if you look comparatively during the stock falls and the stock shocks, you find that there are other foreign direct investors and country risk analysts who get attracted.
Israel, let me just ask you to hold it there. Let's take Hilton quickly. We'll take that question up as to indeed who are these markets. Hilton, you're calling us from around Gauteng.
Hilton, you're calling us from around Gauteng.
Hello?
Yes?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Hilton.
Hello?
Hilton, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great, thanks. I don't know if you heard Jacob Zuma's speech the day he fired Nene, where he went on to explain how Africa is the biggest continent in the world and how it was colonized, and that political freedom isn't economic freedom, and how he wants to change that. Do you not think that had a major impact on the outflow and the rand and the currency?
What did you understand him to mean, Hilton?
Well, I thought he was implying that he now wants to take away whatever economic power foreign companies have within South Africa.
Oh, I see. So that could be what may have caused the slump. Okay, thank you very much, Hilton. Israel, perhaps just intertwine this with the question, indeed, who are the markets?
Well, I appreciate the previous caller raising that question, but I don't go as far as saying that there's a move of pushing out foreign direct investors, of which it has been government policy in my observation that an open liberal economy such as ours would obviously need to have open trade, export and import with other nations. But on this question on who are the markets, I think the biggest cry, particularly from the left-leaning and pan-African leaning thinkers, has been that have we created our own type of industrialists, so to speak, so that if there are certain things which are pronounced and they come as a shock, because when you look at the definition and the characters of the shocks in stock markets, since the 1623 I mentioned, for about 40 stock falls, part of it has been perhaps a rash or a quick decision that the market didn't expect, and number two, public psychology,
okay.
which
Israel,
again,
I'm going
I
to
think
cut.
would have, yes?
Oh, bad news. Unfortunately, Dougie, we have lost you. If you are able to call back, please do. We would have to take your call. Otherwise, I don't want to be accused of anything. But Dougie was calling us from the Val, and I know he would have made a point. Quickly, let me just allow you to wrap up, Israel.
Well, I think we need to do those recommendations, particularly on the fiscal discipline, which have been recommended, and also reassure and also reabsorb. We need to absorb people who are outside, because not everyone felt, particularly the grassroots, not everybody felt this shock, so to speak, with the markets. So
okay.
we have a huge task. This was a revelation, to absorb people who are actually outside the main economic stream, so that they become part of this discourse, both at a practical level and also at a tangible economic reality. Because so far it looks like the people who have been affected by this, respectfully so, perhaps are the foreign investor and the high pitch level market where that deals, so to speak, with liquidity assets. But we need to absorb more people so that the economy can be widespread.
Thank you very much, Israel. Colin, a final one. How does this rand volatility affect our neighbors like Zimbabwe?
Well, it would affect them in a way, because, I mean, what happens in South Africa is that we are the bigger market in the Southern Hemisphere, in the SADC region. So, of course, if something wrong happens with the South African currency, it would have, that cascading effect of the currencies that are in the neighborhood. It may affect them on the downside, because we have these trade relations that are happening against their currencies. For example, we have the Botswana Pula and we have the Zim dollar, as you know, that it was now converted to the American dollar. So it does affect trade relations in a way, and people traveling amongst these countries have to do currency exchanges. But then, in closing, what needs to happen going forward is that we need to have diplomacy and strategy being managed well from the top, so that we can avoid a precipitous fall of the markets and the currencies in our country. Because if that is not well managed, then it would mean that people would not have confidence in the political and presidency office making announcements regarding anything that has to do with the country. And it will be like we don't know what we are doing as a country.
Okay, so Zimbabwe is affected.
Well, I mentioned countries generally, because Zimbabwe is not the only country in the SADC region.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Question Time. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.